help us tackle it and understand it is John O'Toole, Director of Operations and Sustainability at Airfield Estate. And John will be discussing water and waste sustainability at Airfield Estate.
To be here on behalf of Airfield Estate for Innovation Week, and I suppose we would say it's Innovation and Creative Week. Delighted to be following ESOLT and Food Cloud. Airfield is one of those not-for-profits that has already collaborated on many occasions. As recently as this year, our apple harvest was sent to Food Cloud. Apple juice was made, and charities will benefit from the resources for that particular product. I'm going to start my presentation today with just a little bit of a video on Airfield, because not everybody knows about Airfield, just to give you a sense of what we are in the community.
Why not visit us at Airfield Estate and be a glutton for ambience? Come, ignite the senses. Invite curiosity. Explore intricate natural detail with a history of shared experience. Classical engineering for life. Educate. Learn. Be mindful. Lay down some roots. Driven by high standards, trend-setting ideas, and a good nature. The Irish countryside on your doorstep. Seasonal, fresh, self-sustainable. Overindulge in culture, colour, and tangibility. Get your hands dirty. A recipe for living. A marriage of old and new, past and present. They say cooking is love, coffee is a hug, and eating, well, is always happiness. Grow. Wonder. Be sheepish. A gift of nature.
So if you didn't get from that, Airfield Estate is a social enterprise, a not-for-profit. 38 acres of farm and gardens based in urban Dundrum. We have a farm, gardens, a heritage experience that reflects the life of the two overends that we see here on the screen. We have events, our gardens are organic, our farms are regenerative. We have a restaurant, we bring in 15,000 school kids a year to educate them on food and farming and sustainability. And I suppose what today is about is sustainability and education and teaching that cohort of people, not just on-site but outside our four walls, of sustainability. So the two overends, the two ladies who set up the charitable trust in 1974, they wanted the estate to be used for education and recreation. And our current mission today is inspiring and educating people to make better food choices. So we're very much aligned with ESOLT, our earlier speaker, and Food Cloud. And we talk a lot about food waste. And I suppose the two sisters would have always said small deeds done are better than great deeds planned. And that's what Airfield is about, is that innovative, that creative, that change, taking risks, taking a punt, and hopefully works out better for the environment. They were known for one of the first places to pasteurise milk in Ireland, and that story still holds true, where we pasteurise milk on site. A little bit trigger happy there. So today I'm going to focus on waste and water, but we have a huge focus on electricity in terms of utility. So where this all started was back in 2018. We were looking at our own sustainability and what Airfield could do just on site. While many people here watching in today won't have a farm and a gardens, you can just take what we did into your own environment, be it an office or a home or a housing estate, and try trigger what some of the things we have done. So it all started back in 2018. We looked at our waste on site, and we would have 300,000 visitors coming on site, and we tried to educate them about waste. So actually we went and took every single product that we had on site that was in for sale in our restaurants, in our shops, and we went to the supplier to find out what the breakdown was and what bin or where that could be recycled. And we thought we were fantastic in drawing up this board with all the individual items and the individual bins that it could go into. Unfortunately, it was a failure because the consumer just, either through lack of knowledge, lack of education, or haste or rushing, they would just simply put what we would spend our compostable into the green, which is recyclable, put the recyclable into the black, or the black into the green. So the bins are contaminated. So we had to go back to the drawing board. That first innovation didn't work, and we had to be prepared to make mistakes to move on. So a bit like Food Cloud, we are always aligned with the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. And for us, it's 2, 3, 12, and 13. They're our focus. So food hunger, good health and well-being, responsible consumption and production, and climate action. So we took these particular goals and said, how can we integrate them into Airfield and what Airfield is doing and our sustainability? So we set about trying to have a quantitative measure on our inputs and outputs. And we settled on what is called Scope 1, 2, and 3. It's a European accepted measurement statistic. So during COVID, when we were slightly looking for new actions, we undertook a study of all our 2019 stats. And we took all our Scope 1 and Scope 2 in that particular occasion. And we quantified all the outputs from our agriculture and from our forestry and from our waste. And then also from Scope 2, which was our utilities, gas and electricity. We have since completed Scope 3, which is all the inputs from our suppliers. And that was a much bigger challenge because not all our suppliers were ready to take on that challenge. Some were, some less so. But the stats that Scope 1 and 2 gave us showed that we were, 2019, our global our greenhouse gas emissions were 333 tonnes. So we set about achieving a target reduction of 25% down to 250. We're some way along that journey, but it is a journey. We have started with electricity and gas by installing PV panels to supply 70% of our requirements in the peak months. So that's a huge cost saving to us, but it's also a reduction of our greenhouse gases. So then we have moved on to the other elements of Scope 1 and Scope 2, particularly Scope 1, where a bit like Food Cloud, it's all about, and some of these stats I'm showing here today, I obviously didn't consult with Food Cloud, so 1/3 of all food produced goes to waste. That's food from the ground as well as what has been produced. And that's 4 times more than the aviation industry, which we're continually giving out about. For us, 13% of all adults in the world are obese, 39% are overweight, and 13% of the Irish population are at risk of food poverty. That means they can't afford the food, and then we hear on the other side that 1/3 is going to waste. So to tackle that, Airfield has created a food hub where we are bringing in families and teaching them the confidence, giving them the confidence of food shopping, food planning, food cooking, in order to reduce that waste and to reduce what's going into the bins, which has the same impact as in Airfield. We are trying to reduce the waste of food on site. So what does our waste look like? We know that in 2020, little over 50% of our waste was organic and biodegradable. So we said, let's tackle that. Let's see what we can do, what resources do we need, and how can we reduce that. And how we undertook this was, I've just shown a picture here. So we have now purchased, not on site yet, it's coming on site in December, an aerobic digester. I just put that picture up so people could see just simply what it was. This will become an educational tool on the site for people to see what happens with your brown waste if you segregate it properly. For us, just simply again to explain what happens is we take all the brown waste now that's coming from our site, it's going into the aerobic digester, it's heated at 72 degrees, all the enzymes are broken down, and then we have a compost at the end of that we can use on site. This is how brown waste is converted into a usable material. For us, it will reduce the volume that we have currently on site by 80%. It now creates a circular economy in Airfield where all the organic waste, the green waste, the restaurant waste, and the compostable cups, all those compostable products are going to be processed on site, and after some pathogen tests, we hope they will be reused on the land. If not on the land, we can resell it. We now will have no brown bin lifts, which is financially sustainable. It reduces the amount that end up going to a landfill, which is being contaminated. And finally, our objective of reducing our greenhouse gases. I suppose in terms of metrics, it's quite small. Overall, we would have over 15 tonne of organic waste, and the carbon factor is 2.7 tonne. But the objective is that we're going to reduce that. And by the end of 2022, we'll have reduced our greenhouse gas emissions in terms of brown waste by 5.5 tonne. The cost, there isn't cost implication. The digester costs 30k roughly, but there's a return for us, all the things that are outlined earlier. But in fact, it's got a 4.5 to 5 year return, which is quite a good return on investment for us as a sustainable social enterprise. The second one we tackled was water, and I think we're very fortunate in this country that we go to a tap, water comes, we go to a shower, go to a bath, and we water our plants, we wash our cars. There's always water at the turn of a tap or press of a button. But it's not a finite resource, and we need to be conscious of that. For Airfield, it has both financial and sustainable implications. Our annual water costs are €60,000, and that is broken down, and I've just shared this with those certainly in industry, that there's a charge for what comes in, but equally there's a charge for what goes out, and that's the bit we are challenged on. Where for what comes in, it's an equal measure, but there's a higher charge for what is considered wastewater. For us, it's not wastewater because we're feeding livestock and we're feeding the plants that grow the fruit and the veg. However, there seems to be a standard across the board that there's a percentage is waste, which is we're being hit at. We have spent a lot of time and effort to try and address this. And I know some of the speakers later on today are from Irish Water. Maybe there's some insights into that. But for us, this is €30,000 as well as alleged lost water, which we are challenging at the moment. So how have we gone about addressing wastewater? So the first thing we have is we have a reed bed on system. So what this system does is we take all the grey water from our office block, one of our vent spaces, our school, which all grey water, which is the hand basins, and we store it in a container which then is pumped to the top of this chamber as you're looked at the screen on the left-hand side. So that's about 1,000 litres. And that system flushes that grey water through a number of systems to reduce the bacteria. It puts it through grit and stone. And then the last flower bed on the right-hand side is an iris flower plant, which again, the roots in that reduce the bacteria in the plant. And at the end of that process, we pump that water back up to a higher part of the site, and we reuse that water to flush toilets a second time. So we're getting a double use on that water on site. We have green roof systems, which is good for biodiversity on site, which absorbs more water. And we have a 10,000 litre rainwater harvesting tank. And this follows on from the Overends when they built their first glass house back in the early 1900s. They actually had a rainwater system. And we're only following suit 100 years later. And this rainwater harvesting is sufficient. Obviously, we have livestock on site. We milk our cattle. We have to wash down the parlour every day. So two things we've done here to reduce our water reliability. We now have rainwater harvesting sufficient to wash down the the parlour, which is 300 litres saved a day. But we've also reduced our milking. We used to milk twice a day, which was 600 litres a day. That's down to 300 litres a day because we're only milking once a day. I know all the viewers won't have milking parlours, but you got to think of the logic of how we wanted to reduce our water usage financially and sustainability on site. We also, in light of the water outputs and the alleged wastewater, I suppose you're asked to go and do leak tests, and it's very difficult to do a leak test on a 38-acre site. But we have actually installed meters, and I'd say to anybody who's in development of a site or an estate, it's really important that you put these meters in, or these valves in on certain stages of construction, so you can actually monitor your leakage on site. And that's one of the things we've done. So now all our buildings, we measure the water in and the water out in order to establish what the leakage may potentially be on site. We have drilled 2 wells on site, not an ideal location on a granite foundation, but we have actually drilled 2 wells to feed the livestock and water the plants. Some of the other things we're doing, again, this probably ties into the food waste. We have done some research, and it's really important that we quantify everything we're doing to move it on as a measure. We took 8 families, we sourced a Dutch app, and we got them involved in planning and weighing and looking at the expiry dates of their food. And we reduced, a bit like Iseult was saying for Food Cloud, that particular cohort, that 8 families, have reduced the wastage in their household by 27%. We have switched to regenerative farming, which is it's conventional would be plough and till. Regenerative farming is no-till. It allows the roots of the plants to go deeper into the ground. Therefore, you get a more nutrient-dense food, and therefore less wastage on your food, and therefore less waste in your compost bins. Our organic gardens don't use pesticides or herbicides, and therefore can be eaten straight out of the ground, again reducing the wastage of that supply. I suppose for me, it's the sum of the parts, and for everyone who's looking here today, I suppose a call to action would be is think about your water, think about your food waste, think about your brown bins. We can all make a change, and there's not anyone on this Innovation Week today that can't make a change, be it in your home, or be it in your office, or be it in your community, in your sports clubs. So I guess for me, it's a call to action. Airfield has doing their bit, and we'd ask everyone else to do their bit. Thank you.
John O'Toole, Director of Operations and Sustainability, Airfield House. Thank you very much. That's living and working proof that a commercial business can make a difference. The video you showed, it doesn't do Airfield justice. Even though it was a beautiful video, I urge people to go to Airfield Estate and live the experience, because you will not be disappointed.